Hi everyone, welcome to Papa's Workshop. Today is part 2 in my series on how to make a 3-point tool for about $2. And if this is the first time you've been to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell next to it down below to be notified each and every time that I upload videos. Most of you are aware that we're uploading videos now several times a week and you don't want to miss out. So go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, and you won't miss out on anything. So let's go ahead and get started on today's project, making this tool handle. Okay, with my stock dried after sitting overnight, I removed it from the clamps, put it on the lathe, and started getting it all rounded. I used the gouge for this to round the stock. With everything nice and rounded now, I took the original tool and transferred the measurements over to be able to get the thickness that I needed for the correct diameter. I used the calipers to be able to do this, and with it marked on the tool, then I could just go ahead and transfer it with the pencil so I know exactly what depth that I need to do. Then using the parting tool, I just cut down to that depth using the calipers as my guide to make sure that I could keep it consistent and be able to create an identical match to the original tool. The same technique was used to create the tenon that will accept the copper fitting. At this point, I'm taking very light cuts to be able to do the final adjustment to be able to accept that copper fitting. And this is my final check. It slips on great. All that's left now is just to be able to go ahead and turn down to the final shape. Over at the bandsaw, I took the tool to remove the handle. And being careful not to hit the metal with the blade, I went ahead and just took small passes to remove the handle a little bit at a time. It took several passes to be able to accomplish that, but in the end it was actually quite easy to be able to remove the plastic handle. The next thing I did is I took some 5-minute epoxy, mixed it up, put it inside of the copper tubing, and I wanted to make sure that I had real good coverage with that. And then from there I just slipped it on to the end of the handle. And it did have a good fit. I wiped off the excess, and the copper fitting is now in place. The next thing was to take the drill bit, drill the hole into the end of the handle to accept the tool. Make sure that you use a drill that's the correct size. Test fit it before making this cut. I had to use one slightly smaller than 3/8 of an inch. Now off camera I did sand the tool handle through all the various grits from 80 all the way up to 220. And then I took the original tool and transferred the decorative cuts over to the tool handle just with the pencil. I then took my 3-point tool, the original one, and I just put a very slight groove into my points of reference. And this is going to be able to accept the wire to be able to burn this decorative touch into the wood. To burn the decorative detail into the wood handle, I used some wire, and the wire is attached to a wooden handle. Make sure that you never ever wrap your fingers around the wire to do this. So this takes just a couple of minutes to do. You just put slight pressure onto each of the grooves. The groove that you put in there with that tool makes it where the wire has a place to be able to rest very nicely. And it takes just a moment to be able to burn this decorative detail into the handle. I think it adds a very nice touch. The finish that I've chosen to use today is one that I've used now for the last several years. It's a 1-to-1 mixture of linseed oil and shellac. It creates a very nice finish. It's a friction type polish and it dries immediately. So it makes it where you can put on several coats, have it dried in between, and I'm using a paper towel to be able to do this. Again, you do not ever want to use a cloth. So I'm using a paper towel to apply my finish. Okay, the time has come to be able to remove the new tool handle from the lathe. So I cut down as close as I can, and then I use a coping saw to finish cutting the last little bit of the material away to free the handle. With a little bit of sandpaper, sanding the end nice and smooth. Then I'll add a little bit of my linseed oil and shellac finish, and the handle itself will be done. And the final step is I just mixed up some 5-minute epoxy, put it onto the end of the metal, and from there we'll slip it into the end of my new tool handle. I wanted to make sure that I had good coverage, then I wiped off the excess. It's in place, and we have a new tool to add to the tool chest.